Wilson Alexander does a fantastic job covering the LSU football program for The Advocate. He's their lead beat writer, of course, and he's got a story in The Advocate today that it's titled The Inside Story of How LSU Football Signed the #1 transfer portal class in the country. Before I start talking about this piece, I would highly, highly recommend you go read it because I'm not going to get to all the details. It's Wilson's story. You need to go check it out, but it is very relevant talking point, and I'm certainly going to address it. So I want to give Wilson his props at the top. It's great work. But I do want to talk about a few things. And I would say this, if you haven't read it yet. I don't know that you're going to read it and your eyes fall out of your head. Like, it's not something that has unearthed something so foreign or so groundbreaking that you couldn't believe it. But it's very, very, very good reporting by Wilson and doing an excellent job of just going to get the perspective of a number of people involved in the putting together of this transfer portal class. He, of course, had an opportunity to speak time and time again with Brian Kelly. He spoke with Austin Thomas, LSU's essentially general manager of the football program. He's spoken with a number of boosters, LSU's collective, including the council for the collective. So did a great job of just accumulating information and putting it together in a worthwhile way. And essentially what the story details is Brian Kelly's understanding that the way that he wanted to do things when he got off the plane in Baton Rouge from South Bend was not going to work. You can't just go try to recruit high school players, get them into the program, keep them for 4 years, and graduate champions, as he says. Like that approach will not work. And then he was on the record a little bit into his time in Baton Rouge as saying, like, we're not going to go buy players. He said that after LSU came up short in terms of defensive linemen entering last season. Y'all remember the stories. Ended up at Miami, ended up at Oklahoma. LSU didn't get the defensive lineman they were looking for because Brian Kelly said, we're not going to buy players. And then it became very, very clear you have to go buy players. And some coaches have looked at that and said, well, I'm not doing it. I'm quitting. And we've seen it. We've seen it all over college football, college basketball. Coaches saying, I've had enough. I'm done. And Brian Kelly could have done that because Brian Kelly's got enough money where he doesn't need to really do anything he doesn't want to do. But Brian Kelly's got one more shot to win a national championship. It's here at LSU. And if he wants to make that happen, you got to play ball. And that realization came pretty quickly and was kind of put into high gear, as Wilson's story details, by the Bryce Underwood decision. Now, Carlos Spat, who is the legal counsel for the collective, tells the story in Wilson's piece about when Bryce Underwood flipped, his phone started buzzing to the point where he thought it was possible that something had happened to someone in his family. But no, that was just everyone reacting to LSU being significantly outbid for what many people would classify as the most impactful player in their recruiting class. And that got LSU's collective into overdrive, for lack of a better term. And LSU was able to raise at least $13 million per Wilson story for Bayou Traditions. For perspective, LSU had spent $11 million on its football roster total over 3 years, including a high water mark this past year of 5.5. Now you're looking at 13. So you've almost tripled your budget for this football team. And to get that done, you've got to become a sales organization, basically, to drive investors. And that's the thing that Wilson drives home so well in this piece, is the tour, for lack of a better term, that Brian Kelly and Austin Thomas went on to various boosters with this plan. And they didn't just come up with the plan out of thin air. Scott Woodward and Austin Thomas flew to Seattle, and they met with the Seahawks and looked at how they handled a salary cap. Okay, this is what we've allotted for left tackles, really offensive tackles. This is what we've allotted for pass rushers. This is what you need to pay a quarterback. This is what you need for running backs. You want to go get a linebacker? This is how we handle our salary cap. And they took that information, came back, they went and saw the Texans. Remember, Austin Thomas spent time at Texas A&M. Austin Thomas also was right there as the Grove Collective in Oxford really blossomed, and they dove deep into this NIL game. And so they've got all this information from various places, and now it's time to go, quote-unquote, sell. And for me personally, I know right now, this time of day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, there are a lot of people listening to me on terrestrial radio right now that are in sales. You're out in the car, and you're out trying to make things happen, make the cash register ring. And I've been in that position. I've been in insurance, and I've been in radio sales. And like for me personally, it's just a personal experience anecdote. Like insurance can be tough to sell. You're not selling anything that someone can touch. But you've got to convince them to part with their money to make it happen. Radio, you can't touch that either. You can hear it, and you don't get to feel it, but you sense the return on the investment is coming. And they have to go and pitch this investment to people who understand that the only return they could possibly get on the investment is enjoyment and winning. They cannot recoup that money in any way. You just have to part with it. And they detail conversations with multiple donors where they decided, yeah, it's something that I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to cut this check if I want LSU to be relevant in college football. Because if you sit here and spend $5 million a year on your roster, one, you're not going to acquire a lot of transfer portal talent. And two, the talent that you've already got on your roster may move on and likely will move on if you don't up the ante. One of the discussions that is detailed in Wilson's story is with Pepper Rutland. He's the founder and president of MMR, national construction firm that's based in Baton Rouge. He played linebacker at LSU, was a team captain, and he's been a donor for years. But Brian Kelly had to visit his office, sit down across from him and say, hey, we appreciate what you've done, but you got to do more or else we won't be able to compete. Like, that's a sobering message to somebody that cares a lot about LSU football. And trust me, there are plenty of rich people in this state who have tickets to LSU football, who enjoy to go to Baton Rouge or to go to Tiger Stadium and see the band come on the field. And, man, I hope we beat Texas A&M. But if we don't, that's all right. Go back to the house and enjoy time with the family and get up and go to work the next day, whatever the case may be. Like, where that ticket is perfectly within their budget and within their desires to buy. Chipping in $1 million, which is what they're asking, 7 figures, so $1 million plus, no chance. But you've got to find the people that are willing to do it. And so that's what Brian Kelly and Austin Thomas had to do. And that goes back to my original point in talking about the plan Brian Kelly had when he got off the plane from South Bend in Baton Rouge. It certainly did not involve touring the state of Louisiana, sitting in the offices of construction companies and oil and gas tycoons and being like, hey, man, gonna need a lot more because I got to pay the left tackle. Want to rush the passer? We got to pay this guy. And they're now armed with the information and a system that they've got in place with computer software that shows these successful business people that they're asking for money from, that it shows what they're budgeting for every position. It's not just, well, this 18-year-old strong-arming us for this is what we got to have. It's okay, this is what we're willing to do at every position on the field. And this is the money that we have, and this is how we're going to allot it, and this is how we're going to compete. And Austin Thomas has a great quote in this piece from Wilson that says, one of the most important things we have to learn, and we've had to learn, is when to say no. When to say no to the player that's asking for more, because that's not in our budget. We have a plan, we have a system. And I think, and this is just me speculating, but I think it's a reasonable speculation to make, that going to business people who are successful and have managed money and have managed companies and have had business plans and models that have been successful, and going to them, not just saying, hey, we need a lot of money, but saying, here's how we're going to use your money to compete. And if you believe the story that's come out from Kirk Bowles over in Austin, that Texas is spending $40 million on its football roster and LSU's at 13, like, nobody's verified that. Wilson's reporting very much has credible sources, named credible sources, telling him 11 for this team, 13 for this team, then you realize what ballpark you're trying to play in. Texas has been in the Final Four 2 years in a row. Now, LSU is not going to be able to go $40 million a year. The question I have, that I'm certainly not going to get an answer for sitting right here, the question that I have, though, is how many years in a row can LSU do 13? I know that revenue sharing's coming. There's 20 right there, but everybody's throwing 20 on the pot. So to compete, do you have to throw 13 more on that? And are these deals going to be cleared by the clearinghouse based on value to companies? Like, I don't know. The collectives may go away, and this all may look a lot different 12 months from now. I've never, over the course of these 3.5 years, I've never felt comfortable giving you definitives about what the future is going to look like. I'm happy to offer my opinion and my concerns, some things that I'm not concerned about, but I'm not going to speak definitively about that. But the thought, and this is in Wilson's piece as well, is that you need to front load these deals, because when that settlement is reached, which it hasn't happened, when the House finally determines this is where we're going to go, some of these deals won't meet that criteria, and therefore you're going to have to do things differently. It's a fascinating story. It details the inner workings of putting this transfer portal class together that is ranked number one by multiple outlets. And Brian Kelly has said in this story and publicly in press conferences, like, we should have a team that's ready to compete. We have not had a team ready to compete because of money. We now have the money. We should have a team to compete. And it details how they did it. My biggest question that I take away from this piece is, yes, the proof is there. LSU has the pockets to go spend $13 million on a football roster. They've just done it. In 2025, they will spend that. Can they do that in 2026? Can they do that in 2027? Can they do that in 2028? Because there is no return on these investments. The business people, the boosters, the donors that cut that check for this team will not get any money back for it, besides a tax write-off. So I don't know the answer to that. I think you have to ask each individual person. But I do know that based on the last 3 years, when teams have success, those wallets get a little looser. And when things don't go well, people start looking around and covering their pockets. So for LSU this year, you need to go out there and put a representative product on the field for that $13 million to keep that cash flow moving. Great stuff from Wilson Alexander in The Advocate today. I highly recommend you go check that out over at theadvocate.com. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.